Hey, how you doing? This is Kitch, and you are watching me play Factorio. I've been sitting over here for a little over an hour right now, and look at that. We're 1 hour out. We are at 1K consumption on all of the sciences, including military. Production is still a little bit low, but it's catching back up. But again, this one right here is the only guy that matters. And we've done it. We've done it. We're going to catch a couple of rocket launches here. They're not quite synced, but they are very close. I'm not looking at the exact setup that was in the last episode. As I was sitting here, you know, you wait for an hour just to get that hourly stat up, and then you find out it's a little bit short, and it's heartbreaking. So there was one tiny, small, seemingly insignificant little problem with the base, and once I got that fixed, it was good again. And I should have known. There's a lot of little hints around here as to what the actual problem was, but yeah, and it still hasn't recovered yet, but it's getting close. And I'll see if anybody can guess what the problem is. We'll give a little time. We'll roll the intro, and when we come back, I will reveal that one problem. So yeah, I let it run for about an hour, just kind of in the background. And I got to looking at the stats, and we were like at 990, I think, was the actual percentage. And of consumption of science, which isn't right. But I got to looking here, and the satellites are backed up. That should have been a clue. That obviously we're not launching the rockets fast enough. Low-density structures, they were all backed up. Control units, they are all backed up. They're recovering right now, but it was pretty much the same situation. And rocket fuel is moving in at a good pace. So that tells me that there must have been a problem with rocket fuel production. And sure enough, going up to the refining area, I was getting a lot of red lights up here. The problem turned out to be that I had 36 of these solid fuel maker machines. We were just missing one machine. So I put it in down here, did a little craziness with some beacons, and all of a sudden everything was working out. We were just short one solid fuel machine. Pay no attention to this down here. That was an act of desperation after sitting around for an hour trying to figure out what's going wrong. But yeah, no, adding that machine. There were other hints as well. Do you remember when we were getting like a backup of light fuel? That should have been a hint that we're obviously not using enough light fuel. We were getting reds. Still getting some reds. You expect some reds, but we were getting a lot of reds over there. That should have been a hint since solid fuel is the only thing these guys take. That should have been another hint as well. But yep, nope. It was just that number got messed up. There was an additional factory we needed to place there whenever we were setting this up in episode like 20, and never got a good test of the petroleum setup, so should have expected there to be a problem there. But yeah, no, that's all working good. Are you guys going to launch at the same time? Boy, it looks like it. Yeah, there we go. Oh, nope, one to the left has a little bit of a lead. Well, that's fine. Okay, so, yeah, we did it. So, what I want to do in this episode is just kind of take a little tour around. And we'll look and see how things are going, how things look. And I guess we should probably start. Let's start at the base here. We'll go up to the mining outpost, and we'll run from that side. The base, as it stands right now, is fairly large. the main area. This is our area where we started with. This was the starter base we set up in the Mod Menagerie series. And this is the bulk of the manufacturing. We've got power here, we've got power there, power there. These outposts around here basically just supply this base. This was our module making facility. This is one of the first things we set up. It's just a set of factories here. It's turned off right now because we have more modules than we know what to do with. But it just took everything in and made modules. That was its job. But if we expand out to get all of the outposts and everything, this turns out to be the size of the base. It's rather quite large. Explored out quite a bit. Basically, I was looking for resources, in particular coal. We never really found any. And through all that time, we've been moving up here to where the iron is being distributed from. And we're not quite there yet. All right, so this up here was our main iron station. It was set up relatively early and really haven't been up here in a while. But we have 3 trains running in here, 8 cars each, and those are being fed from, still getting a little bit of lag. Those are being fed both from this large patch right here that is, that's feeding that directly. And also, we have 3 trains running in here, supplying ore from other areas. We have a smaller outpost right here that's gathering ore. We have one down here that's gathering ore, and there's one over here. So basically, trains run from these outposts to here, and these trains run from here to the main base where that is set up. We have a very similar setup up here for copper. Same thing, we only have 2 stations right here pulling copper and taking that down to the base. And those stations are being fed both from patches here, as well as some trains running over here to this large patch and pulling that over there. So copper ore right here, iron ore right there, and that is basically where we get most of our materials from the base. Let's see. Let's take this to oil build. Oh, it's going to go through copper first. All right. We have a couple of other outposts that we use. We have this oil right here. This basically supplies the oil for the base. We have 2 trains running back and forth. It's quite a bit. I did put some speed modules and beacons and stuff like that in those because it was having a little hard time catching up. We have another oil yard down here, a couple of them, but those feed the main base. Those don't go into the main base. As far as other base resources, we are pulling stone from right here. This has been our stone mine throughout the whole playthrough. We've had a lot of stone in this playthrough. That's been one of the themes. And we are pulling coal from this patch right here. This is one of the only coal patches on the map. It has 19 million left. We have another smaller one right here that we were using for the module factory, but those are the only 2 coal patches that I have found on this entire map. There are a whole bunch of coal patches. They're just minuscule little tiny things. And if you just randomly go to any part of the map, you can see them. They're these little tiny coal things. This is what the coal looks like on the maps. I'm assuming it has something to do with the Alien Biomes mod. But it's not really situated for megabasing. Okay, so we're at the coal building station right now. Or the oil building station. We'll get to that here soon. But let's take a look over here at what happens. Here is our copper unloading station. The trains unload the copper right here. These mix in, and this is silly. We need to pull that out. We have the ability to supply the full lines with stuff from the trains, but we have a large copper deposit over here. So I'm actually bringing in copper from over here as well. And the whole idea when I set this up is that when that deposit dies, we can just plug in these train lines and feed the whole base from there without having to rework everything. I don't know that we're ever going to get to a point where this patch is going to be dry, because we are running very, very far ahead on mining. Mining productivity right now is at 160%. And we have the potential now with 1K science a minute to really spit some of those guys out. Same thing with iron. We have a couple of iron deposits here that we are sending in and merging those in with the lines that are coming in from the outside. So we can fully supply this off of the trains if we wanted to, but we have this extra iron down here, so why not go and supplement that? And I'm just Xing these lines out. Doesn't really seem to be any reason because we're balancing back air, so they go through. Copper goes through this big balancer right here. It's a 36 by 36. We actually don't need 36 lines. We actually need, what is it, like 25? Yeah, so I'm not pulling them all out. This is 36, right? I'm not making that up. 32, I'm sorry. We're pulling 28 of those lines out. And those go into our copper smelters. It's just a big, long line coming down like this. And those go off to feed our main bus. Iron is a similar situation, except we actually need 48 iron furnaces. So that's split in half, 24 balancer right here. This balancer I pulled off of the internet. It does not work well. As you can see, we have gaps, which is not optimal. It hasn't really affected the base so much, which is kind of surprising to me. But yeah, this is not a true good 24 to 24 balancer. But so far it hasn't been hurting us. We have 2 columns of iron smelters, one going down on the left, one going down on the right, giving us our 48 lines that we need right here at the end of the day. And then that transitions over to our steel smelters. And those go ahead and finish up this area. And we get steel joining in right here. We get iron coming in right here. We get extra iron, extra copper coming in over there on that side of the bus. Haven't had a lot of problems with this setup. It was mostly just place it down and let it go. It's really nice when things like that work out well. We had a little small, tiny copper patch here, or a coal patch here, and it looks to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull it up for the sake of cleanliness. But yeah, we're bringing in coal right here. We're bringing in oil right there. I'm going to get run over by a train. There we go. And we have a couple of stations coming in here. One of them is bringing in stone. The other one is bringing in some iron ore, just a little bit. Stone smelting going on right here, making stone bricks. We had a little bit of a problem with this. Needed stack inserters as well as better output mechanisms in order to get that to work up to snuff. This iron comes down here, gets smelted, feeds the sulfuric acid. That's the whole purpose of this station, is just to give iron for the sulfuric acid. And over here on the left, we have our refining setup. I was kind of confused by this because I looked and saw 22 refineries, and on the calculator, it actually showed, I think it was like 26 or 27. I started to panic a little bit, but then I realized that I had my beacons off. I only had 4 beacons hitting these. We're actually 5 of these hit. So with that, the numbers work out. You need 22 refineries. These guys go all the time. We have our cracking set up over here. Sulfuric acid is right here. We have 1 manufacturing plant making that, 1 lubricant plant. Those feed over here to these tanks, and we have some trains running this stuff from here down over to in the middle of the bus where that stuff is actually used. All of our light oil goes down here to make solid fuel. And there's my extra machine that I needed in order to make this work. And that's working. This is a big mess, but it's working, so I'm leaving it. And then we go over here to our 50 rocket fuel making machines that are busy making the rocket fuel and trying to catch back up to the rocket parts and low density structures that we have going. I don't know that they'll ever catch up, but they're going to try. Over here, we have our plastic setup. The coal comes in down through here, through these trains, through this balancer, and down here, we're doing our petroleum in an S pattern going around, being fed from both sides. Seems to be working out really well. And all of our plastic is coming in and converging in here in the middle, where it goes through the balancer and goes out and gives us our 7 belts that we need. Yes. For all of the red circuits that we have to make. Red circuits, I think that's... Red circuits and low-density structures is what that's used for. And we make a ton of red circuits. Here's our rocket fuel. Here's our coal. Additional coal lines we need. I did make military science in this base, so that's what these 2 lines of coal are for, is to make the grenades. And our stone bricks, which we use for the steel furnaces, which we need for... Is it purple science? I think it's purple science. Water coming up here. I don't remember what this water is for. Is this for the refining? Yes, it is. Is that really the closest water? Yes, it was. Okay, yeah. Water comes in from this pool down here to feed all of the machines. I'm bringing in, how many is this? 5? 4. 4 lines. I don't think you technically need 4 lines. It was just easier in my head to go ahead and run 4 lines. So that's what we did. But yeah, these lines all come down. This joins up with the copper here. It comes around the corner. It's all belt-based. We're not using bots for anything significant in the base, just simply for, like, building stuff. And a couple of, I think train refueling is really the only places where we're actually using any of that. But that joins up all here, and this turns into our main bus. And there's a lot of splitters here. A lot of splitters here. It's been kind of a controversial thing, I guess, on the series. I'm not sure what to say about that necessarily. It's a lot of splitters. I agree with that. It totally works, and it totally does what I was expecting it to do and what I wanted it to do, so I'm considering it a success. I'm not saying it's the best way to do it, because it's totally not. There's very few things done in this base that are the best way to do it. Reason why this base is the way that it is because it's what I wanted to do, and it's the way that I like it. So, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. But yeah, the way the bus basically works is I have 8 lanes of iron, 8 lanes of copper, and all the other stuff right here. And then we have all these spare lanes over here. And the idea was we're going to keep these 8 lanes here kind of as full as we possibly can and feed the machines off of these, I guess, 16 lanes. And then as these drain out, we'll pull in additional materials from these over here. And that's basically what this monstrosity of a setup is. And it works. It works just fine. But again, probably not the most optimal way to do it. Okay, so the philosophy on this, the base, as we start to get up into here for our science manufacturing, is to make everything that you need for the science all together. Treat each science kind of like a module. So in the red science, you need copper, you need iron, or iron gear wheels. So we're making the iron gear wheels here. We're taking in the copper. We're producing the red science. Pretty simple, right? For the green science, we need transport belt and inserters. So we make those here. Those need gears, so we make those here. Those need circuits, so we make those here. I'm not bussing things like gears and circuits, intermediate products on the bus. They're all being made on site. Those two are rather straightforward. But when we get into like blue science here, that requires, what do you need? You need advanced circuits, engine units, and mining drills. Okay, so we're making our mining drills here. We're making all the green circuits we need for the mining drills here. All the gears we need for the mining drills up here. The engines all in line right here, and the red circuits all in line here. Now this is not the most efficient way to do it, but I find it fun. I like it. It makes it a little bit more challenging. The optimal way to do this would be to compress all this iron and copper down a little bit more. What I mean by that is to, you know, before we start building science, to perhaps build a lot of green circuits, right? And have green circuits running down. And reason why that's a little bit more optimal is that, like, this circuit here takes up one spot on the belt and uses 2.5, wait a minute, 1.5 copper plates. So for every green circuit you have on the bus, you're saving one iron and one copper. So that kind of compresses that down. Same thing with things like gear wheels. One gear wheel is 2 iron, so you can get twice as many gear wheels on a belt than you can iron plates. So that's a more optimal way to do it. Same thing with, and this adds, right? So this takes electric circuits, 2 electric circuits. So you're getting that savings, plus 2 plastic bars and 2 additional copper. So it makes a lot more sense from an optimal standpoint to go ahead and create all the red circuits you need for your entire factory, all the green circuits you need for your entire factory, and move that on. I do it this way because I find it interesting and fun. So, and just another little challenge. So yeah, that's all the blues. I did make military science in this one, so this is where that is set up. We've got all of our grenades here, ammunition here. And those come and join up back here. We've got a million gun turrets being made here. These guys are extremely hungry for materials, but those are all being produced right there. And that comes down and gives us our line of military science. And here in the middle, we have our train tracks that cross the bus. These come in here to give me a place to you know, have a place to bring in a train should I need it. Hey, let's go ahead and do that. Let's see, you are right there. Why don't you head to mid supply? And this is also where our sulfuric acid and lubricant come in, because this is the point where we start needing those things. And didn't want to have to pipe it from, let's see, how far are we away from it? We're pretty far away from it. It's all up there. So we're just taking that by train instead of piping. It works out fairly well. Over here, I have a refueling station as well as a train nursery. We got to use it a little bit, not as much as I thought we would need to. But as we ran across things, trains, stuff like that we needed, I have pulled them over and added the trains right there. Looking into purple science here, we have our engines, electric engines down here. All of the red circuits that we need in order to make these, and this is where the stone lines end, right here, coming in to make these guys. Yep, purple science. And now we are starting on yellow science, which is the big one. And yellow science spans from up here all the way to down here. It's quite the thing. But this area up here is making the red circuits and green circuits we need to make our speed modules. Batteries up here, those are carrying on down. And down here, we've got blue circuit makers. This right here is basically a blue circuit chunk, and there are 3 blue circuit chunks in this area, getting everything we need for that. The reds, all the greens, as well as the blues coming down, and this looks really full right now. The other item you need for yellow science, it requires 4 things, is the copper cables. I'm just doing kind of a direct insert thing right here. So those are just being inserted right there. It's a lot more efficient than trying to move a lot of copper wire on a belt. And I'm doing this kind of goofy little belt thing right here. That's just to get that stuff across so that we keep the beacon's alignment. No real good way to do that unless you spread it out really far. And I was curious if this would work out okay. It appears to be working out just fine. All right, so starting here all the way the rest of the factory going down is our rocket facility. Low density structures up here, fairly straightforward. We're just getting iron, copper, steel, copper, and plastic to make those. Those are just going out the back. It's always good to get into low-density structures. It's kind of like as you're building up all these, they're getting more complex, and then low-density structures is like, oh, it just needs these things? Oh, fantastic. But then we get into rocket control units. I basically have a very similar setup to above as far as one of these blue circuit makers. We got that. We've got basically 2 modules making blue circuits here. Down here we have a bunch of red circuits being made and a bunch of green circuits being made. Those are going down in to make speed modules. The speed modules, the blue circuits meet up down here. This is where our rocket control units are made. Nice big long line of them. And then finally we have this area down here where our satellites are being made. Got our solar panels right here. Here's all our green circuits we need to supply them. We have a radar machine right here, which basically just sits there. That's really all it does. Here's all of our batteries we need for our accumulators, which are going well. And a little tiny mini blue circuit maker right here, but just enough to get the blue circuits we need for the satellites. All that stuff comes in right here. And this is our satellite making machine. Which takes it down, splits it in half, and we've actually got a lineup of satellites. We've had that for a while. I think it'll probably die out over time. We just haven't had the base running long enough yet for that to actually catch up with the problem we had with the rocket fuel. All the science comes down, feeds down on these belts right here. They come down and get into here, and are processed down here in the science making facility. And that's it. That's where the tour ends, or the base. It looks like we're having a little bit of an iron problem coming in. I wonder what that is about. Is it a supply thing? Not liking the looks of that. Problem with having these large belt bases is if you do have a problem up here where a train's not catching up or something like that, it takes a very, very long time for it to show up here on the end of the bus. So we could be having a supply, could have had a supply problem 10 minutes ago, and it would only be showing there at the bottom. All right, let's hop into the helicopter, and let's go ahead and bring it back to the main base real quick. We'll go over that. We did put in this nuclear reactor here rather kind of late in the game. Throughout the series, I was working on building this big giant square of solar panels. Just to get enough power, and by the end of it, it still wasn't enough. So we needed this one little additional reactor here to help supplement and make it work. But this is basically the main base. This is what we set up in the original series. It's been basically making belt and splitters for us, is what its job has been. We have a dedicated blue belt maker over here because at one point we were using a lot of blue belt. We're making gears here. We're making circuits here. Red circuits, things like that. We have our mall where everything that we could possibly ever want is being made. We have a landfill factory right there. We also have another one down here. The recycling machines, I've used those a lot in between episodes just to get rid of garbage. This is all of our science makers and stuff like that. Rocket makers from the original series. This setup down here actually did launch 102 rockets and got us up to mining productivity 100-ish. So as humble as it is, it still worked out pretty well. And we have our other landfill making facility down here, and it looks like all this stuff is done. And it's a little late to be cleaning up right now, really, but energy savings is what we're doing here. And yeah, over here to the left, we have our solar field, and it's quite large. It represents a lot of resources. We've spent a lot of time building that. I should say the robots spent a lot of time building it, and in the end, it turned out to not be enough. Very, very, very sad. You know, all the refining and stuff, not a lot of interesting stuff going on over here. Nuclear processing, and of course, all of our trains in our main train station. The refueling train that we just added for the nuclear reactor that we just added. This one right here is for our train refueling. He's been quite busy since we started up the base, but he goes around and gets fuel to all the trains. The uranium one, the water one, we're importing water from down here up to the module factory that was creating all the modules. We sent that via train. It worked out extremely well. The artillery train, we used to have biters on the map. We took them off somewhere in the series, early in the series, just because they were getting kind of annoying. But yeah, no, that was where our artillery train was. Oil train, that's where all the oil for this base comes in. Our main building train right here that resupplies, and the resupply area for that. We had, I built an additional building train that just had the rail stuff because we were needing a lot more stuff than we had space into one train. A coal train here, this supplies with coal and of course iron, stone, copper. And I downloaded a mod to burn off wood. And that's what this has been. We've been stockpiling coal over here from all of the wood that we've gathered so far, mostly from this area over here. All right, well, this was a fun playthrough. I had a lot of fun with that, and I discovered a lot of mods that I really liked. I've played modded Factorio before. I never got a good set of mods that I really liked. A lot of them felt really cheaty to me. But I think that throughout this playthrough, I've kind of found some that I really don't think I can live without. I know in .17 they're going to add blueprint shortcuts, copy and paste and stuff like that. But the mod that I have that allows that is just, I can't tell you how fabulous that is. That's been one of my favorites so far. Definitely. And I'm trying to think, what other mods do I have installed that I've really enjoyed? Creative mode. Wow, that's been a big one in this series. Bottleneck's been extremely helpful, and I haven't noticed any performance problems with it. I know those were probably fixed like years ago, but I know that used to be a big thing. Helicopters, that's been a good mod. I could live without it though, I think, but it's been very nice. Quality of life research, that was an interesting mod. It probably helped me out a lot more than I thought. Especially things like the mining speed. At the end, you can just pull that stuff up really quick. It's a good mod. I really liked it in the first series, the Mod Menagerie series, because there's so many things that you have to research that I felt that it really kind of balanced out science a lot, if that makes sense. I always felt that science moves forward a lot faster than your factory does, and this helps kind of balance that a little bit. That was one of the things I really liked about it, and of course the reach and mining speed and stuff like that help out as well. The other mod that I didn't think I would really care for, but used a lot, was the even distribution mod. I always kind of associated that mod with like the burner phase, where you're refilling furnaces and stuff like that manually. But man, I have used that mod more. It has a much bigger use, and it's one of those that I don't think I could probably play without anymore. It'd be really hard to play without. Some of the others, like the upgrade planner and things like that, they're okay. I just haven't I guess in the later game, they made more of an impact in the first playthrough than they did in the later, because once you get, you know, your main base set up and you're moving on, it's mostly about it's mostly about building new stuff, and you just do everything with blue. You're not really upgrading any belts anymore. But yeah, that's it. That's the base. We did 1K science a minute. Even with the crazy bus. I'm again with the bus stuff, I'm completely aware that it's not probably the best way to do that kind of setup. But I will say that it works. It totally works. And it totally does everything I was wanting it to do. And it's actually behaving perfectly as far as that is concerned. Well, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. It's been a really fun series, and I can't wait to start the next one, which may have already started, and if not, it will be starting very soon. Again, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sticking through the series. I will see you in the next series. Have a good one.